Patrons, we have much to discuss. I need a new name for when I want to show you something I'm working on, but it's not done. Well, like parts of it are done, but I'm not done with the whole thing. Framework shipwrights would be a great one, but I use that for all of your ideas for frameworks. So I don't know, but this is going to be a video about two frameworks that I'm working on. I can't finish any frameworks right now because we don't have Melee 3.0 and we're not going to get it this year. But because of that, I've been spending a huge amount of time behind the scenes working on frameworks, and it's a very exciting time to make frameworks because we're getting a lot of loadout elements, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So I have two example ones. I'm going to be talking about my Revenant shell, which you're seeing right in front of you, and my Zephyr shell, which you can see right here, which is a little less fleshed out. I actually sort of have a primary, which I'll show, but it's from Erosion Zephyr. So first important thing to discuss, the difference here, the main thing that I want to demonstrate to you is how the additions to Buildcraft that we've been receiving lately are changing the way that you can make loadouts, like making framework more of a thing. And I'll explain exactly what I mean. The second thing I want to show you is how frameworks can kind of be evolved from what they were before. And a bit of an anxiety I had was that if I got the frameworks very right the first time, then when I came back around, if that frame hadn't been changed, then it's like I would just have to show the exact same thing. And I can show it in a different wrapper. And I have a different wrapper in mind for them. I can talk about different things about them. I can talk about arbitrations and stuff like that. But I didn't want to not be able to show anything new. But that is definitely not going to be a problem because I'll demonstrate that. So I've done a framework for Zephyr before, and I haven't for Revenant. So I'm going to do the Zephyr one first. I'm a little less excited about that, but still pretty excited. First thing to talk about is the Manticore. This is my MOA, and this has a really interesting ability for Zephyr. So the biggest upgrade to Zephyr, to Erosion Zephyr, is I already had this playstyle where I was making tornadoes and coating them with corrosive and they just blow everything up. And then you have Turbulence Jetstream, that's just always good. It's just, Zephyr's a good value warframe. You don't have to do very much, but you get a lot out of it. And the problem was that she was a little bit low synergy. She sort of has synergy with any ranged weapon that is not hit scan, and she has some synergy with like corrosive coating because you can do the armor stripping tornadoes thing. But besides that, and melee, she kind of has anti-synergy with melee a little bit. But pets, yes, pets. Finally, she has a good companion with Tractor Beam. Tractor Beam gives you negative 50% gravity, and Zephyr's passive it doesn't like say this directly in game, but literally it's just 50% gravity. Because when you use this with Zephyr, you just float, you're just in the air. You're just static in the air, floating around. I've got to go show you this. Okay, so the Zephyr build itself has not changed too much. I have been tweaking the efficiency a little bit on my own. I have to reform a little bit. People have been giving me feedback about the efficiency that they feel like they don't like it. I feel like I like it, but I might show a build that has a little bit more efficiency if I can finagle it a little bit. I might even go less efficiency. I don't know. I'll fiddle with it a bit. But anyway, you can see. So we're here out on the plains, and this is not the plains. This is Fortuna, and my and my MOA is going to come over here. And now we're going to jump in the air and just boop. And we're just in the air. We're just sitting in the air. And we're going down a little bit. If I do it a bit higher, you see we're just in the air. Just shooting. We're in the air for a while. And you might be saying, well, Zany Pants, we're not very high up in the air. What's the big deal? Well, you can get pretty high up in the air and still do it. You can see at this range, my MOA will not tractor beam me. But like if I get a little bit closer, yeah, you see, so it's like about that range. So if you bullet jump up and go boom, you get tractor beam. And you're just floating around. You'll be up here for so long. And I don't even have any mods for this yet. This is literally just, tractor beam gives you double aim glide duration. It gives you 100%, which is additive with other sources of aim glide duration to stay up in the air. But besides that, like, I don't have anything else for aim glide, and you can stay up there for like 10 seconds. That's sick. So anyway, so I am going to add other stuff. In fact, while we're here at Fortuna, let me show you one of the things I don't have ready for this loadout yet. You might have noticed I have a kit gun here called Daka. Daka is my Rattleguts kit gun, and it's got a big magazine. It's designed to be an assault rifle for pistols, We don't really have an assault rifle type weapon for pistols, and what I mean by that is we don't have a weapon that it's an auto pistol that doesn't have high fire rate but has medium fire rate and has good supplemental stats and a big magazine and an okay magazine to reload ratio is generous. And so I made that. So just to show you what it is really quick, if you want to make it yourself or you want to think about that yourself. Right now, I have Catchmoon, Haymaker, and Stitch. I've been really enjoying that. I said Catchmoon out of habit, it's Rattleguts. And you can see that Gilded, you've got very nice supplemental stats, bit more crit than status. Fire rate is pretty low, but remember you have Lethal Torrent, so that's kicking it up to like above 5. And then you're going to have more because I'm using Arcane Velocity, which we'll talk about in a sec. So cool, you got a magazine of 83 and 2.1 reload. With that kind of fire rate, you can shoot this for a very long time. So you can just jump in the air, you bullet jump up into the air, you have turbulence on, enemies can't shoot you, and you're floating in midair because of tractor beam, and it's impossible to kill you. You're immortal, like sitting in the air. And you could just shoot people for like 15 seconds. You could just keep shooting people forever, as much as you want. So that's cool. And then you also have the Erosion Zephyr thing, and you're also just Zephyr in general, and it's the best. Okay, cool. So let's continue. The reason we're here is because there is another thing related to kick guns that fits perfectly into this setup, and that is Pax Soar. Pax Soar is a kit gun arcane that gives you flat aim glide and wall latch time. Flat aim glide and wall latch time. 5 seconds of aim glide and wall latch time. That is a lot. This is going to let you stay in the air for well over the full duration of a magazine on that that gun I just showed you. Look at all these things that have happened that I've been saying. Oh, Fortuna. But it also increases the accuracy and it decreases the recoil. Now, the recoil on that kit gun I just showed you is very low, but the accuracy is actually a little bad. I'm going to go back out and show you that. So accuracy increases are very rare, and they're usually pretty expensive, like build space wise. There is an Acolyte mod that increases accuracy while aiming, but it's not by very much. It's by 30%. And you're losing a mod slot for that. I don't know. That seems like not a good thing to lose a mod slot for. And you can see, so I'm gonna shoot this here gun, and I have Lethal Torrent on it, so you'll be seeing like mostly the regular fire rate. Oh my god. Oh, so you can see with Arcane Velocity, I have this much fire rate. So that's the fire rate you're looking at. You can see you can shoot for a very long time, but you can see in the distance over there. I don't know if you could see that clearly, but the accuracy, the innate accuracy is like kind of bad. It's like it's not a problem, but it's not like if you aim at the head perfectly, you will get a headshot every single time, you know? So, and that's a potential loss in damage. So the point is, Pax Soar not only perfectly synergizes with Zephyr wanting to do like the tractor beam, like turret in the sky, and just like you could just shoot things for like forever. You could just sit up here, and like I'm falling slightly because I did it a bit wrong, but you see what I mean? But also, it makes this Rattleguts Zaw kit gun, oh my god, do more damage, right? Because your innate spread, there you can see that much better now, right? You see how the recoil is like pretty regular, but the bullets just like have a lack of accuracy. This is quite normal on weapons, by the way. I know I'm making it sound like it's this special thing that is unique to this gun, but it's not. It is a thing that lots of weapons have. It's just usually weapons with low-ish accuracy also have high-ish recoil, and so it exacerbates it. Like a really good example of a weapon that has natural accuracy that feels similar to this kit gun, but has high recoil as well, is the Prismagrocata. But I think that because this is like a pistol that can be like an assault rifle, to make it feel a little bit less like an assault rifle, they made it have a bit of innate accuracy reduction, which feels pistol-y, like that's fine. But to really redefine it, to really make it an assault rifle for pistols, I feel like Pax Soar is the way to go. That innate accuracy increase, that's just really good. And there are a few other things you can do with that. So in Erosion Zephyr, the weapon I was using to coat my tornadoes with corrosive, so they proc an insane amount of status, was the Scourge. And I was using a build like this with heavy caliber. Now, this is nice because you can easily hit all your tornadoes. You fire in a very wide area, but that's not nice if you want to actually shoot it as a weapon, or if you want to like do AoE damage, because this is your AoE weapon if you don't use powers. but in like this is too wide if you're using it to hit like a crowd of enemies. So by using Paxor, when you're in the air, you negate the accuracy reduction on heavy caliber, and then it becomes an accurate weapon again. And this is just a copy of Serration, which is I love it when you can dynamically change weapons in the middle of a load. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, fantastic. Now, you might be asking, Zandy Pants, where's the melee? Well, Melee 3.0 is still coming, so I don't know, but I do have an idea. So we already have one of the 2 MOA precepts, and if you haven't used MOAs yet, the way they work is that each of the heads comes with 2 precepts, but you don't actually have to use them with that head. You just have to build one of each to get them, and then once you have them, you're good to go. So I have all 6 already. They are Tractor Beam, Whiplash Mine, we'll talk about all of these later in a different video, Stasis Field, Security Override, Anti-Grav Grenade, and Shockwave Actuators. And now we already have Tractor Beam, so we need that in there for this setup. But the other one, we can kind of do whatever we want. So I was thinking, if we do Whiplash Mine, we can pull a wide group of enemies together. Like, what if we're fighting not Grenier and they're spread out? So we don't need to do our armor stripping erosion Zephyr thing. But we don't want to just shoot them all with our corrosive Grenier killing specialized weapons. What if we get a melee weapon that had really good cleave, or was really good at killing enemies in a tight group, and then we use Whiplash Mine, and then periodically our MOA will pull all the enemies right into one spot, and then we can just boom and destroy them all at once. Awesome. Like, even if you were to just use a polearm with a lot of range, this would be sick. Like, you just wipe out the whole group of enemies. And we don't need anything in the melee slot. There's really no specific tool we need, so it's a good place to add more synergy. And I love this about MOAs because you can just mix and match like whichever. The MOA precepts are so specific. They're like these specific tools, so you can add one that just has perfect synergy. Like, a lot of them are kind of bad if you don't synergize with them, and then they're very good if you were to. You know, you just get Vauban Vortex on any Warframe. And for some Warframes that doesn't matter, but Zephyr is interested. Remember, Zephyr used to have a thing for her 1. She used to have an augment called Dive Bomb Vortex that let her pull enemies together. Oh, sorry, I guess that used to be her 2. I forgot. And that's gone. We don't have that anymore. So you used to be able to pull enemies into a group with Zephyr, but you can't do that anymore. Now it's back. And this is the Zephyr build as it currently stands. You see I have blind range at rank 8. That's because as I was tweaking it, I found this amount of efficiency is like what is okay. You see we have 225 energy, and if you're going to cast your like main suite of things, which is like Turbulence and Tornado, that costs about 200 energy currently, just slightly 201 energy. So if you were to go full Blind Rage, it is going to be a bit tight on energy. You have to have literally exactly full energy. If there's an energy leech enemy around and you get a bunch of health orbs, unless you cast it instantly as soon as you get all the health orbs, you like won't have enough, which is not nice. So I dropped down Blind Rage a few ranks, but I'll keep tweaking that. I think that's all I really have to say about this. I run it with Zenerich. You want the energy. It's still kind of energy hungry. Remember that Zephyr's Jetstream Tailwind, not Jetstream, makes you go pretty far, you know, with duration, and also costs less in midair. So even though that might seem expensive, you're actually getting a reduction in that cost while you're airborne. It's 50% if I recall. So it's still pretty cheap. You can still go pretty far. And that's it. So I hope that's a good example of how you can upgrade frameworks. Like, there were a lot of frameworks where it was like, I had a key synergy, like one nice sort of proprietary synergy between, it was often one weapon or 2 of the weapons and the frame, and then that was it. Like that, a lot of them have more stuff than that, but a lot of them were limited to that. Now we've been given a ton of tools that let you just interconnect everything. Like, there are all these interactions between all of the different weapons, and it's awesome. And this is going to end up being a really long video that could totally be 2, but I'm just going to do the whole thing because I want to establish and emphasize how exciting it is to be doing this kind of build right now. Revenant. I'm actually happy with this one. I like the other one. I hope I convinced you that I'm very excited about that one, but Revenant, even happier about this one. So here you see I'm missing a melee again. Not sure about the Sentinel weapon again. We'll talk about that in a sec. Previously, Prisma Shade had a bad attack precept, but now we have another option. And then Zenerich, I'm probably not going to use Zenerich for the focus. The thing about Revenant is that he doesn't really need his build space at all. Like, you could take off a lot of these mods. One thing I'm going to be doing for future frameworks is showing the framework, quote unquote, of the build. And for Revenant, like, for some frames, it's just like you need all the mods. But for Revenant, you could take off like a third of these mods or more, and it doesn't really, like, this is still fine. Like, you could even take off more, really. I don't really feel this is that bad either. But I definitely want those mods. The point is that once Revenant has strength, he gets so many charges of Mesmer Skin that he's just unkillable, and you don't have to worry about taking damage at all. It is just, you don't have to care about survivability, which is cool. So given that, what do? What is there to synergize with when you have a bunch of open mod slots? Well, before recent updates, kind of nothing, because we didn't really have good stuff to put in those slots. But now we really, really do, and it's really exciting. So we can add things like these set mods, these new set mods. Now, the thing about previous set mods that I want to drive home is that the first set mods from Plains of Eidolon, they were mostly just mods on their own. Like, running them as a set didn't benefit you explicitly. There was nothing about using multiple of them at once that actually made it better to use them. And then I think they saw that, or that was just the test or whatever, and they went totally in the opposite direction with the Umbral mods, where it's like, these are so strong when you use them together that they like bully you into using all of them on all of these builds, unless the other ones are just irrelevant. And I've talked about that a lot of times before. So with these new ones, with the synth set, the mecha set, the tech set, they have departed from that. And now we have set mods that are fair. I think they might be a little too far in the you need to use them all as a set direction. But the way that they've done it is they make it so the thing that you get as the set bonus is not you don't just get more of it. It's not like gravy. It's a thing that you kind of don't want it as much if it isn't consistent or it isn't faster. So for example, with the synth set, which is what this loadout is based around, you could run only 3 of them, and then you have 15% of your magazine reloaded per second automatically while your primary, secondary weapons are holstered. That's good, but you need to wait like 8 seconds to get it, and that's a little long, you know? The active firing time of most weapons is not longer than 8 seconds, which means that if I empty my magazine in my primary and then swap to my secondary, I'm often going to run out of ammo in my secondary before I get my primary back. But if you run the 4th mod specifically in the set, suddenly 20% per second, the active firing time of many weapons is about 5 seconds. So then it's perfect. You can fire a weapon quite easily for the whole time you need to, and you will be able to swap before you run out, and then you never ever have to reload. So do you see how it's like they designed it such that it's not like it instantly becomes bad when you don't use all of them? It's just that you get that little extra bit, that little bit of consistency. To give you another example really quick, since I'm not talking about the other set mods in this video, although I will be talking about them pretty soon, the mecha set. So this gives your Kubro is going to mark an enemy every so often, and that they mark more often as you have more mods in the set. And then they copy status effects to all nearby enemies within a meter range that expands up to 30 meters. The thing about this is that, again, like having it be that every 60 seconds you can kill an enemy and copy their status effects to nearby enemies, that's good. It's not like that's not just gravy, but having it be more consistent, not more powerful necessarily, but more consistent is a good way to do it, because then it's like, if you just have it as a sub-theme in your loadout, like you could just make it a gimmick that you have a weapon that's good at this, where you just dirty bomb an enemy with statuses and then spread them around every so often, you know, when you see the mark. Then you run like 2 of these and it's a sub-theme of the loadout, but you could also make it the whole set and then you get it consistently. If you run this whole set, you basically always have a marked enemy, and then you could build a whole loadout around it. That's a really good balance. And a lot of these mods, not for nothing, have very interesting primary effects. It's not just their secondary effect. Cool. Awesome. So given that, let's talk about this synth loadout. Again, Revenant is able to sacrifice a mod slot for the comparatively unexciting synth reflex. Holster speed is fine, but we already have holster speed on Aura and Exilus, so sacrificing a core mod slot for it is a bit much, but Revenant doesn't need this mod slot, so that's not that bad. And then we have the other 2 on the Sentinel. Again, Sentinels, mod slots are not super competitive on Sentinels. When we talk about mecha and tech set mods, those slots are pretty competitive right now, so that's a bit of a different story. But these can be pretty gravy, not a big deal mods, and it kind of doesn't matter. You don't really need anything else, especially on Shade. So Synth Deconstruct, this makes your Sentinel generate health orbs when you kill enemies that it hurt. So currently in my loadout, this isn't really doing anything because Shade previously had a really bad attack precept where it wouldn't attack unless you'd been hurt within 10 meters. That's pretty close. But with the Fortuna update, we received Assault Mode. Now this is an augment that lets you put it on any sentinel, and they'll synth deconstruct makes your sentinel make enemies generate health orbs at a 25% chance when it does damage to them. Now currently I don't have an attack precept in this sentinel build, and previously using Shade specifically would have been a bit of a problem with this mod because Shade's attack precept was revenge, uniquely not allowing it to just attack willy-nilly at a certain range. It would only attack as a response to you being attacked and at the minimum 10-meter range that Carrier has. But with Fortuna, we got Assault Mode. This allows you to just have any Sentinel ignore whatever unique attack behaviors it has, if any. I think it was just Shade that had that, and ignore whatever their range is and make it 30 meters. This means that Jin and Doriga, who have longer ranges, if you'd like them to have a shorter range, now you can choose to do that without leveling a copy of their mod at a weird amount. And for Carrier, big upgrade, and Shade, you can ignore their low range and make them have high range. So I need to confirm that this makes Shade ignore its normal behavior, but I believe it does, and in that case we can now use Synth Deconstruct. I would still sacrifice these 2 mod slots just to get the reload bonus for the rest of this loadout, because that's the whole goal of this loadout, to sacrifice space to make my primary and secondary really, really good, which we'll get to in just a sec. But the point is that you can still make this kind of good. And when you get a health orb, it heals your Sentinel as well, which is nice. And then we have Synth Fiber. This one is sort of bad because most Sentinels that need this armor have bad armor, and it only gives them 100% of what they have. So it's not like you're fixing their low armor. And again, like if all I'm trying to say is if this was like health conversion, then it would be really good, and it would allow a lot of Sentinels to get tanky in a way they couldn't before. But it doesn't, so that's too bad. But it's still, like you're gonna get it pretty consistently, and it's 12-second duration, and it's just gravy, and I'm using it for the set bonus. So the point is that we can sort of use all of these new set mods that are designed this way to choose to give up space elsewhere in our loadout to make parts of our loadout stronger. Now, you might be familiar with a term that I used when we had Exalted Melee taking mods from our melee weapons instead of separately. Called stat sticking. The idea is that you can sacrifice that weapon to make another thing in your loadout stronger. At the time, it was you were sacrificing your melee, you were giving it a build it wasn't good with itself to make your exalted weapon stronger. So it was a stat stick for your exalted weapon. There's kind of a, they got rid of that, but there's kind of a weird version of that you can do right now where you can use other parts of your loadout. You can use almost any part of your loadout as a stat stick for other parts of your loadout. And there's like this jigsaw puzzle thing where you can create different mods with other elements of the loadout on different weapons, and it's just crazy. So now that we've sacrificed slots on Revenant and Prisma Shade to make my Javlock and Synoid Gamma Core stronger by giving them auto reload, what are we going to do with them? And we'll talk about the synth charge in just a sec. Well, the way that those auto reload mods with reloading when holstered mods, the way that those work is actually not when they're holstered. It's when they're not holstered. So in other words, as long as you're not wielding them, they count as being holstered, even if they're like on the ground or disarmed or given to someone else or on the ground. So if you use the Javlock, boom, that's not in my hand anymore. All the rounds are off, and you can see in the top right corner, it's reloading. Like that's reloaded and it's fully ready to go, and I can just throw it again if I don't get caught on the thing. And there we go, it's reloading. And now it's already reloading, and I can shoot this weapon as much as I want. And then la la la, and then it's done reloading. I grab this, and now you can see my Synoid Gamma Core is reloading. And then I can throw this and open those and then shoot that. And you can just constantly be attacking, just at all times. And I don't even have to wait till it's fully reloaded, but I can, and I'll throw it. And now my Synoid Gamma Core is full again, so I'll shoot it more. And I pick this up, it's at like half, I'll throw it and reload it. My Synoid Gamma Core is full. Now I can shoot this for as long as I want. I feel like throwing again, so I'll pick it up. And you never ever have to reload. You can just infinitely attack with any weapons you want. And you could use any sorts of weapons with this loadout. You don't have to use the Javlock and the Synoid Gamma Core. But come on, the Throne Javlock, the legendary Zandy Pants explosive Throne Javlock with no reload. No reload. You can infinitely throw it. Like as soon as it hits the ground, I'll pick it up as fast as I can. Like you can, I missed it, but if I'd gotten it, you can already throw it. Like you can just go boop, and then like pick it up and you can throw it. Now it's not the full damage, sure, but like being able to do that is wicked valuable because you can move it around like this too. And you just saw there's actually another hidden secret to this loadout. Revenant's Mesmer Skin makes you not die from self-damage. You take self-damage, but you just don't die. Look, 2 health. That's curious. 2 health. Interesting. I'm not losing Mesmer Skin chart. Oh, and interestingly enough, it's making my passive where when I lose all my shields, I shockwave enemies. That's also happening. Huh. That's awesome. What on earth? It's really good. I just don't understand why this is happening. I feel like that might be a bug. It is indeed a secondary thing, but it's a nice benefit to using Revenant for this. He doesn't lose Mesmer Skin charges, and he cannot kill himself with any self-damage while he has it, but he still takes damage, which means that you can trigger his shield emptying passive, which is a really awkward passive for Revenant to have because he already has Mesmer Skin to make himself take no damage. I don't know why they gave him a passive that requires you to take damage and then an ability that makes him never take damage, but go figure. And of course, you can still use Dance Macabre to kill everything, and I made the efficiency high enough that you can still kind of use that, and it's great. That's all. That stuff is all good, and you can still do that. But the point is, you can infinitely attack with as many weapons as you want, and that's fantastic. Now, can I just say, I also put some work into the fashion frame here. You can see that Mesmer Skin creates this like sort of cluster of tentacles on specifically your left shoulder, and that has been made to line up with my other shoulder armor. And I picked the Ghazal shoulder so that it doesn't clip; it just kind of goes through it, and it looks really good, doesn't it? Don't you think? And you might also be noticing that my arms are in the Zandy colors. Revenant only has that sort of Eidolon ghosty fire stuff on his left arm. So I decided to put the Synoid Gamma Core in a slightly modified Zandy Pants blue on my right arm. So now I have like the Zandy hands, and it looks awesome. And you can just sort of go back and forth. And we've got this nice asymmetrical leaf cape. I'm sort of like a Wicker Man, Druid, Revenant. That's all. That's it. That's all I have to say. Look at that. So again, this one doesn't have a melee. I think for this one, we're probably going to be going for a more brawler melee. Neither of these weapons are great at DPSing scattered groups. In other words, like if you're in close quarters, yes, you don't die from your self-damage from the throws from the Javlock, but you still don't necessarily feel great if you have to constantly throw it at yourself. And you'll also sometimes pick it up and not have it explode if you throw it too close to yourself. So it's important to have a weapon that can sort of cut through things. I'm probably just going to be picking a generalist melee weapon here. This is one of those loadouts that things are kind of tightly integrated and used for specific things. So I am likely to pick a sort of more generalist melee rather than looking for more synergy like the Zephyr Cleave thing. But I want to briefly talk about what I did with the Synoid Gamma Core. So you might be wondering, well, Synth Charge, like what did you do there? Yeah, this is a bit different, isn't it? So Synth Charge is really bad. The magazine has to be 6 or higher. You can't use Rivens to reduce it to 1. That's just not currently mathematically possible with how much negative magazine capacity you can get on Rivens. And the weapon would also have to have max disposition and have a magazine of like around 6, and there are no such weapons. Even you if there were, you could get them to like 2, and then that would be okay, but you really can't. Obviously, it's atrocious on beam weapons because that last round of the magazine does like, you can see it does like 150 damage. So that's terrible. This mod is awful. Pretty much on every weapon, even the weapons on which it is the best, it's still really bad. So this mod is just like a sacrifice. So you say like, I don't want 8-second auto reload, I want 5-second auto reload. You know, take this off, you get, 15% of your auto reload, of your magazine reloaded per second. And then you put this on, you get 20%. I feel like that makes a big difference due to the active firing time thing I was talking about before. This weapon sort of has 5 seconds of active firing time, but not really 8. And so I felt like it didn't quite fit. But I also like Ruinous Extension on this weapon. That's just my preference. And I know some people like Seeker on this weapon. So what do? Like we can't just run all this stuff because then we can't run Hornet Strike. But where's our base damage? Where'd our base damage go? Well, we can do even more to give it mods from elsewhere. We can run Arcane Precision, which gives it 120%. There's half a Hornet Strike back whenever you get a headshot. And I don't need these Arcanes because I'm Revenant and I don't need survivability. I already have Mesmer Skin. So I don't need Guardian and Grace, and I can't benefit from that stuff. So why not just use Precision? And then I can use Consequence, or you could use Energize or whatever. And then on Shade, we have Ambush. You can use Ambush to give it, there it is, Hornet Strike is back. This is also really good on the Javlock. You can get that nice gas damage increase. Base damage will help your gas damage, so very, very nice damage increase, which is perfect. And then you can sort of just roll your own Hornet Strike, and you can just ignore it. I will be talking about how I feel like this is basically mods 2.0. And there aren't really mandatory mods anymore because we have enough options to replace them elsewhere in your loadout that the only reason people don't think of it as being that nothing is mandatory anymore is just because it hasn't been pointed out that we suddenly have many ways to do this. As a matter of fact, a mod you might be wondering why isn't in this build is Vigorous Swap. There you go. There's your Serration back. I could just take it off the Javlock. Or you could run all three of these things. You can do all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. So very, very cool. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this besides the fashion. This is like I've been playing this so much. Like off stream, every time I play off stream, I play this loadout. I just can't get enough of it. It's so fun to be able to just throw the Javlock as much as you want. It feels so good. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. You can see in the bottom left corner, I have an audience member looking to talk about stuff. So I will get back to them. And thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed these sort of teaser trailers to what I'm working on with FrameWork. I hope that you can see how it's very, very exciting to be working on this kind of loadout right now because we're getting very powerful tools, very subtle tools, but very powerful tools. If you think of your whole loadout as being one unit and you want to synergize and make trade-offs like that, that's very strong right now. We have a lot of tools that make that very powerful. I'm curious to see when we have frames that more desperately want their mod slots or are less synergy focused, what happens when you have tools like this, but then you have frames like that? I'm very interested to see that. A really good example is Garuda, who's really focused on her own abilities and doesn't really do anything with her weapons. I'm curious to see what do you do for a framework like that when we have all this stuff like this. Anyway, very cool stuff. Let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions for any of these slots that are open. Like Prisma Shade, I don't know what weapon I'm going to use on it. Probably just Death Machine Rifle, or like maybe one of the new ones. I don't know. But yeah, like melees for Zephyr, like a Cleavy melee if you have any ideas for that. I was thinking about Exotic Contagion maybe. I don't know. There's so many things. Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thank you all for being my patrons. I'll see you all next time.